Okay, so I would start with project 2. I think it's the most relevant part of the project that relates back to project 3. The ornament that I chose to adapt is Coop Himmelblas Energy Roof. This roof is very unique and it has a very outstanding steel structure that consists of what seems like blades within blades. The roof also serves an important purpose, which I think is could be used as well, which is the solar radiation and light diffusion within the area. Moving on to concept and mind map, ventilation was my main topic of focus that I tried to use in my project 2 as well as my project 3. So I did a mind map just to understand where my approach would be like. Next was the dissection and taking apart of the ornament. We had to, the artifact that we chose, we had to take it apart and dissect it in several ways to have different plans and sort of shapes from the same artifact. Moving on to getting the grammar, in the beginning, this all changed later on, was that I wanted to go with parasitic and empowerment as my main keywords or grammar, because I wanted something that looked parasitic, but the thing is that later on changed for reasons that I will discuss later. This is my pattern that this is the pattern that I got from going on with the artifact and changing certain things about it and the shapes. Moving on to the building element, the initial concept with the ventilation and everything was following natural elements like the sun, wind, and water. So in this element, I chose to go with openings, which makes sense considering my topic of ventilation. So the proposed design is to make use of Thailand's heavy rainfall in order to help with the cooling of the building. So the opening has like a water collecting branch that collects rainwater, and later that water passes through a pipe to a neighboring wall stored in an RWH reservoir where the water causes a cooling effect throughout the space. So this is the final model that I got with the Revit when I adapted it in Revit. These are the technical drawings with the construction and everything, the manual booklet, and a detailed section. Moving on with project 3, the site approach was the main design approach when it comes to the site, as well as the program that is used in the site's main objective is enhancing and empowering existing culture within the site in Thailand. So considering things like climate and other aspects of the indigenous people within the area, as to disturb the site as less as possible, but also bring light to the act of mutualism and dualism, which is where I changed from the beginning, where I wanted something parasitic. I thought later as an approach of mutualism and dualism would be a much better idea than parasitic, which basically means that the host is being used on by a prey or by a parasite. Moving on to the program that I chose was I wanted to introduce into the site the workshop that is the wood carving workshop, because most of the time people usually focus on the carving itself, but not really of where the carving came from or how it came to be, and its cultural influence and everything else. Facade case studies, I went into my previous artifacts and the shapes that I had within the dissected areas, and I found the trusses were very intriguing to me. So I wanted to use that in my facade in a way, but not very direct. So I chose the Studio Ardat in India as a some sort of inspiration. With the materials, I chose steel, glass, and timber. Steel being aluminum for the framing, and this is the mock-up model, as well as the very rough ribbon drawing of how I wanted the facade to be like. This is the construction or the section of the facade, how everything would be put together. On to case study number 2, which is the bridge. So I wanted to incorporate some kind of bridge into my building in a way that interacts with the buildings and the site that surrounds the area. So I used shapes from my pattern from project 2 in order to get inspired to do this type of bridge. I did some sketches and conceptual sketching just to understand where I wanted to go with this. Yes, more sketches. Construction or sectional detail, I wanted it to be a concrete bridge. This is the sectional model of my facade and a non-entity perspective. Then I went on to the building forms and planning, just to get an idea and divide the buildings into smaller sections that are scattered all around the site in a manner that is elegant as possible to the site and to the existing neighboring buildings. This way I wanted the interaction between the bridge and the buildings as well as the existing neighboring buildings to be as smooth as possible. I did some spatial planning for the buildings that I did, the massings that I did. And then I had to modify it in a way that would also disturb the site less, because apparently I took a bit too much space from the available site area. So it was a bit disturbing to the neighboring buildings that already were there, and people had to go on with their day-to-day activities, and it was a bit disturbing, so I had to modify it a bit, making the masses a bit smaller, but I still had the space planning the same, where the workshop was first, and then a cafe, shops, and then the office management. I modified the spatial planning based on the masses that I did. And then I did a study for the Demise line, which is an artificial vertical boundary that breaks a facade conceptually into several smaller units. This is to just better understand where I wanted each room to be. I also wanted to incorporate the roof lines just to understand as well where everything would be like at the end. This is the rest of the plans. And then on to my site plan. There's not much. Okay. This is my full plan. It's not really clear because the site's pretty big, so I had to split them up into several pieces. So conceptually, I wanted a seminar room in the workshop area so that people would have a better understanding of where the art of carving or wood carving came from or where it came about. I also had a lot of displays on with the wood carving materials that people used and the tools that people used to do the wood carving itself. This is the cafe shop. This is the other part, which is the shops area. I also turned into a bit of a display area. And then this is the office management. This is the north elevation. This is just technical drawings so far. South, east, west, and this is a long section. I also had to split up the sections into bits because of the length of the section itself. And then onto the perspective, a morning perspective and a nighttime perspective. That's all.
All right, thank you, Meral. So your idea is about what, parasitic architecture, right?
Yeah, that was my original approach, but I had to change it.
And change it to a bridge, is it? Because later on in your proposal, I can see that you are harping a lot on the bridge kind of idea. The what's it called? Is it the one designed by MBRDV, the red color bridge, right? Is it
the Red Ribbon Bridge in China?
Yeah, in China, yeah. So you're always harping on that kind of, the bridge as your source of idea, I would say. So how does that gonna connect back to your initial idea, just parasitic kind of architecture? Because parasitic architecture, if you ask me, is more like your first case study, the one by the Kopi Humoblau, the one with the Vienna, is it called Vienna? No, Vienna house rooftop.
Yeah.
So so I can see that you have these two great idea, right? Parasitic, and then you slowly goes into a bridge. But I'm just wondering how how you maneuver yourself. How does it goes about within these two idea of yours? Because towards the end, I can see the product is mostly on your bridge idea, right? You have this walkway that runs through. Yeah, yeah. Just wondering.
Actually, originally I started with the bridge. I wanted something like a bridge more than a building, so I wanted to incorporate that more than just a building, you know. But at the end, I had to demonstrate that in a way that would be considered architecture, or as some might say, be considered architecture. So I had to later incorporate the buildings, not the other way around. So I started with the bridge, and then with time, it just started to increase and become different things, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's only my concern. I think that like what you agreed just now, you were a little bit kind of like stray away from your initial idea, right? I think as a student, or as in the future when you do any project, right? I think we should always stay true on your initial idea. If if it doesn't work out, you have to somehow or rather find a way to work it out. Because if you change your direction, it becomes like you are not confident on your initial idea. So that's what I'm trying to say to you. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, Maral.
Hi.
Hi. Before I address to your design, I'd like to agree on the by Mr. James is saying that we need to stay true to our first idea. Because back if you refer to like back to the old school education, especially in not Malaysia, like education, some teachers want the students to struggle, like to have so many ideas and then keep changing the idea, but that's not what happened. That's not really the important things now, because in a way, if you are stay true to ourselves, of our personality, then you will succeed as a designer, like throughout your life. So back to your design, I could see like I do appreciate the way that you still address to the existing building, that there's no demolish, then you still filling the voids, and then it's like your building is like there's very long stretch of connectivity, like there's long streets, because the building is a bit fragments. There's one components, then there's another. The buildings are very far apart, so there's a long connectivity to each buildings. So it's quite interesting. It's like the bridges is like the main architecture of your design intention. It's just actually we can still fill up the activity on the bridge, because if not, it will be a two separate different entity, a building and a path, a connectivity. So like the connectivity can be feel stationary activity of a human at the activity of a street. So that's the streets can be a building, the bridge can be a building, and the building could be a bridge somehow. But I could, and your drawing is quite clear. It's like quite technical. The lines is, can see all the lines.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Meryl.
Hello, Miss. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Did you enjoy this project?
I think it was challenging, but definitely enjoyable. Yeah.
Feels like you learned a lot, right?
Yeah, I did. Definitely, I did.
For me, before I go on, is the few details that you have explored. Like there is one like a joinery detail for rainwater, and then there is a bit of joinery detail as well for structure. I feel that you're not taking advantage of this exercise to really put in your architectural intention in it. And like it's like if you draw an architectural detail, you explore like material and how to combine materials together, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, small side note. You said that you were more drawn towards the bridge idea, and then you feel like you almost want the bridge more than you want the buildings, right?
Yeah.
I can tell
Yeah.
that from your drawings. I mean, because it feels like there is a disconnect between your buildings and your bridge. Yeah, it does feel like you more enjoy doing the bridge than your spaces.
Yeah. It's
It
true.
reminds me of the High Line in New York, where they actually, they occupied the whole the transport line and then put programs into it. It's like I almost wish that I could see that you have put in all the programs that you want to put inside the bridge itself, and the bridge
Yes.
is just the circulation and the connectivity between your spaces. So because your thing than your spaces are. So if you can, connect the program about craft and things, and then that could manifest itself into the design of the bridge itself, and then in terms like becomes a space for that function, it will be much more successful, I think. So
Yeah, I
maybe, same as what the others say just now, maybe just trust your instinct a bit more. Like I think at certain moment you said like you wanted a bridge more than the buildings, then you should listen to yourself and explore that part. I think, like be more confident to explore things.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Meryl.